Good afternoon to all. Shall we start with the session, Strategic Management? I think this is the new subject for you all for the second semester. Before that, I have to tell you, like, this is a very qualitative subject that means more or less theoretical aspects are involved rather than the other subjects. Not in a quantitative manner, like more or less theoretical aspects are involved. So your attention might be very much important for the subject. Okay, first of all, I would like to explain about the lecture schedule. As you all can see in the LMS, this subject is continued by 3 lecturers, myself and Tamara madam, and also like Mr. Mahesh. So accordingly, we have classified the whole session or the whole lecture series into 15. You all know this is a core subject, 3 credit bearing subject. So this is the way that we are going to organize the whole semester. And myself and the Tamara Miss will be starting at the process, strategic management process. Thereafter, at the end of the process, Mr. Mahesh will be joining to finalize the whole set of series of the subject. Got the point? Okay. Yes, I would like to say about the key text that we are using. This is the subject, and also I have uploaded the ebook for the LMS. Then it is easy for you all to refer to that, because we are always going through the subject or the key text. Because my slides almost all I have taken from the book which we have referring to. Then I have made some additions for the prescribed slides given by the book. So the book is the, as you all can see in the ebook from the LMS, Strategic Management and Business Policy, the Thomas Whelan and the David Hunger. Okay, that is the book almost all the lecturers are using for this course unit. So you can make your clarifications from the ebook as well. If you want to get more things, you can get it done from the ebook. Yes, today we are going to start up with the first session, that is the basic concepts of strategic management. Yes, before that I would like to get the feedback from you all, how this subject has evolved. As I mentioned, this is more or less theoretical subject. Therefore, I want feedback from you all. I hope online students, can you all hear me? Is that? Online students? Hope you all can hear me, no? Yes, okay. Yes, how the subject has evolved. More or less, you all are, I think, corporate sector representative or the people, then you all know about the core of the strategic or strategic management subject. You have to know something regarding that. How does the subject has evolved? What about the historical aspects of the subject? Yes, you all know what is strategy? Yes? Strategy? Yes, type of techniques that we are using to kind of to beat the competition in simple terms. So each and every organization, they should come up with a strategy. So have you all heard this quote? I think this is a common quote. Without a strategy, the organization like a ship without a rudder going around circles. Therefore, each and every organization, it is paramount important for us to have a particular strategy or particular strategic management principles within the organizational settings. Okay. So why in the sense? Because as you all know, today's environment is too dynamic. Everything is changing day by day. The information is become very revolutionized. Like information is rapidly changing. And also the customer preferences also, day by day, they might be having some more choices, more preferences. Therefore, as managers, you should be aware about, you should be alert about what's happening outside the environment. Or in and out, you should have good knowledge about that. Therefore, when it's come to the strategy, as we all can see, this is strategy concept has evolved with the military era or the war period. Yes, can you all see with the diagram? Yes? How do we define strategy? How this concept has came around? Strategy? Yes, when it's come to the strategy, it is came across with this term, the strategist. That's why I told you this has came from the era of war or the time of military period, because the term strategist mentioned about, that is the art of conducting the war. As you mentioned, there are some techniques. There are some techniques to beat the competitor or beat the opponent. So like that, with this is the way that it has been evolved as the strategy. Strategy came across from the strategist. Strategist is highlighting the art of conducting the war, the way that we have to conduct the war. What kind of techniques that we have to use, what kind of the things or what kind of components that we, or the techniques that we can utilize to beat the opponent. Therefore, this concept or the term strategy came across from the era of military period, the war. Yes, how do we define the strategy? Before going to the term strategic management, you should have an idea what do we mean by the strategy. Yes, strategy is highlighting the direction and scope of an organization over the long term, which achieves advantage for the organization through configuration of resources as well as the competencies within this changing environmental to meet the needs of markets and also to fulfill the stakeholder expectation. Actually, I have given two definitions regarding that. One is from the Johnson and Scholes and the other one from the Henry Mintzberg. Those two personnel are the gurus from the management field, because we are most of the terms that we are utilizing in and around, like we are using the terms from Mintzberg and the Johnson and Scholes, because these are the two gurus in the strategic management arena. Yes, when it's come to the term strategy, it might be highlighting direction. Yes, as an organization, we have to have a path. We have to move forward. We have to think about what is our future, what is our vision, what is our mission. Therefore, it might be moves towards the direction as well as the scope of an organization over the long term. More or less, we might be focused about the long-term perspective rather than short-term. Because when it's come to the strategic management, we might be mentioning more things regarding the long-term or the future perspective. In and around, we might be using. Mainly, we might be giving much priority about our long-term future. Therefore, when it's come to the term strategy, it might be tell us or spell out about the direction about the company as well as the scope. What do you mean by scope here? Yes? When it's come to the term scope, sorry. Yes? Not merely the achievements as a bank. What can you say? The scope of the bank? The area. Actually, not merely the area. When it's come to the scope, it might be highlighting about the organizations, the products or the service that they are offering. Whether the company is going for the product offering or as a combination of the both or as services, likewise, we have to tell about the scope. Because outsiders might not be aware about what is happening within the business settings. Therefore, if you are going in the long-term direction, we have to give the stakeholders or the persons who are interested about the organization, this is our scope. Although we have now, for an example, as a bank, they might be providing more services. So these are the services that we are providing. That is our scope. In future, we are going to go for these products as well. So likewise, we have to spell out about with the strategy, we have to tell them, stakeholders, this is our scope. Got the point? Okay. And it is going, as I mentioned, it might be going for the long term and also advantage for the organization. What do you mean by advantage here? Always when it's come to the strategy, it might be highlighting, we might be need to beat the opponent. Okay? As I mentioned, it might be came across from the military period. So in that era also strategists came the art of the conduct of the war. Therefore, we should have the techniques how to beat the opponent. So similarly, when it's come to the concept of strategy, we should have to get the competitive advantage from the other firms in the industry. Maybe our direct competitors, maybe our indirect competitors. Therefore, always here we have to look into about the competitive advantage. Maybe utilizing our resources or else our competencies with this changing environmental setup. Yes, do these resources and competencies are two different? Are same? Two terms? Yes. What can you say? Different. How do they differ? When it's come to a bank, can we, like I can say, like we have number of ATM machines available within the bank, BOC. So, can we take them as external? No. So, when it's come to the resources, the term resources, that may be the physical as well as the human capital available with us as an organization. Got the point? The physical capital as well as the human capital. Physical capital, as you all know, maybe the buildings, maybe the systems or the structures that we have. When it's come to the human capital, we have to more focus towards our employees. The key personnel in an organization, the employees. The competencies, yes, as you all mentioned, there are two terms. It might not be similar, no? The competencies, yes. What might the company might be excel at? What might be we can perform well? For an example, we can say like a particular company ABC, we have good R&D department, good research and development department. Therefore, it might be easy for us to go for the new development, new product developments. Got the point? Therefore, we can say the competency as we have good R&D skills within the organizational setting. So that is the competency that the particular company can perform well. Therefore, once we are going in this strategy term, we can say we should have the resources as well as the competencies. That means physical as well as the human capital. Other than that, we should have some things like we can excel more, we can perform well, we can give more priority. Yes, we have this kind of resources. We have good R&D skills. Got the point? That is what we call the competencies. So when it's come to that is in a changing environment. As you all know, we are like each and every organization is dealt with very dynamic environmental settings. Therefore, in line with that, we have to see whatever the market needs. Therefore, in order to address these market needs or else to fulfill the expectations of the stakeholders, we have to think about what is our direction and what is our scope. Because they might not be aware. As a customer, I might not be aware what is happening in the BOC. So in that case, we have to give them through our strategy. Strategy can be highlighted in a way like vision, mission, objectives, goals, etc. We can learn in another few slides more. Like get into that, like strategy in the sense, therefore mainly we have to focus towards what is company's direction and also the scope. Scope is highlighting, as I mentioned, maybe the products or else services that we are offering, maybe the combination of both. Then, and also we are going to go in the long-term perspective. Therefore, once we are reaching to the long-term perspective, always we have to think about what is happening in the environment. Therefore, what we'll be doing by this particular competitor. Therefore, that is what the competitive advantage, and also once we are going with this competitive advantage, we have to look into the resources as well as the competencies within the organizational setting. Because in order to go in line with this changing environmental context. Got the point? In order to meet with maybe the needs of the market or else fulfillment of the expectations of the stakeholders. You all know who are stakeholders, no? Yes? Stakeholders. I hope you might know the term, that's why I just keep it. Yeah? How do we define stakeholders? Why do we mention about stakeholder expectation? Yeah? Owners. Not merely the owners. Stakeholders are the parties who might have like direct or the indirect influence towards the organization, or direct or indirect influences, or direct or indirect interest towards the organization. For an example, we can say suppliers. We can say the general public or the government, environmental authorities. Because they have more influence in power towards the organizational activities. For an example, if the government is imposing that this is the tax, like you all have to go with that, therefore we have to abide by with this, the tax implications towards our organizations. Like that is the stakeholders. Those who can make an influence towards, maybe the direct influence or maybe the indirect manner, they can make an influence towards the organizational activities. Got the point? Therefore, in line with that, we have to think about what is their expectations. I hope you might get the point here. When it's come to the strategy, as I mentioned, this subject has evolved from the era of military or the war period. Because in that term, it has been came across as strategists. That is what we call what are the techniques or the art of conducting the war. So with that, it has been, how do we define the strategy? Always when it's come to the strategy, it might be giving the direction as well as the scope of the business. Okay? in a long-term perspective, and also you have to think about how to go for the competitive advantage. So in that case, we have to look into what are the resources as well as the competencies within the organization with this changing environmental setting. In order to meet, or else if we want to go for the need for the markets, or else to fulfillment of the stakeholder expectations. Clear about stakeholders? Yes? Okay, no? Yes, that is the concept about strategy. Now shall we move into what does this strategic management, that is the subject you all have, no? Yes. Strategic management. What is it? I hope you might have learned about the management. Is it? Maybe on the undergraduate levels? Yes, this is somewhat advanced, not merely advanced, because here in the strategic management, always the companies look around their long-term performance or the future of the company. It might be go beyond like more than 5 years, more than 10 years, like that. Okay. Therefore, when it's come to how do we define strategy management is, we have to think about what kind of managerial decisions as well as the actions which determines the long-term performance of the company. Okay. Whatever the decisions or the actions that we are taking into consideration as an organization, we have to look into the what will happen to the future. What will happen to our long-term future. Okay. That is what it has been mentioned here. A set of managerial decisions as well as the actions which determines the long-run performance of the company or the organization. Yes, when it comes to the strategic management, it might be includes mainly 4 steps. Theoretically, we learn about mainly 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? First of all, we have to look into the environmental scanning. As I mentioned at the beginning, because we are facing dynamic environmental settings. So once we are going to under strategic management, we might be more focused towards the long-term performance. Therefore, when it's come to think about the long-term future, definitely we have to think about what is happening in the internal as well as the external environment. That is the first step we call internal as well as external environmental scanning. I hope you might know about this aspect, like what mainly internal environment, what we are going to look in. Yeah, within the organization. Yes? Yes, why the managers might be look around the external environment? What is the importance that they have? Yes, very good. Like mainly we are focusing towards the SWOT. SWOT in the sense, when it's come to the internal environment, you should look strengths as well as the weaknesses. We call them as strategic factors. Strengths, weaknesses, when it's come to the external environment, opportunities as well as threats. Therefore, environmental scanning mainly based on the SWOT analysis. Yes, that means if we have more strengths, we can mitigate the weaknesses that we have. Therefore, we have to capitalize more strengths within the organization, then thereby we can mitigate our weaknesses. When it's come to the environmental, we have to grab more opportunities. What are the opportunities available in the environment? Rather going on the routine manner, we have to see what might be the opportunities available. Thereby we have to grabbing that opportunity might be having beneficial for the long-term performance. Rather going in on a routine manner. Understood? Yes, when it's come to then the second step or the second element of the whole strategic management process, strategy formulation. Yes? What does it mean? Formulation. Now at the inception, we might be scan the environment, internal as well as the external environment. So secondly, formulation of strategy. Yes? Yes, then now we have to think about that. What about our long-term planning? What we are going to do in the future, then we have to think about what might be the long-term planning of the organization. Yes, at this strategy formulation step, we might be looking about the vision of the company, mission, the objectives, goals, as you mentioned. Then the implementation, that is the third step. Now we have already make our long-term planning with our objectives, goals, vision, mission, etc. Then thirdly, the implementations in the sense, what we have to do? We have to put these plans into action. That means put them into action-oriented. Merely the set of plans might not be work well without having any implementation process. Yes, most of the organizations is having this problem. Like they have plans, maybe in a formal manner, in writing, but the implementation, there is loopholes. First meeting also we are discussing, yeah, we are going to do this, do that. Second meeting also same. Because without having any implementation, again we are talking. Got the point? Like therefore, in the research also it has been revealed that the strategy implementation is very important, otherwise we might not be having the good strategic management process. In order to have smooth run or the formal strategic, very formal strategic planning is a must. Not merely the planning, we have to go for the implementation as well. Then the last step is the evaluation and control. What does it mean? Evaluation and control? Yes? There should be a controlling mechanism within the organization. We have to evaluate them, evaluate our vision, mission and goals and objectives. Therefore, we can set up our performance targets. Always evaluation in the sense, we might be think about that, we might go back and see what went wrong. And what went right. Accordingly, we can make, like if the plans are wrong, we can reformulate the strategies and the plans that we have already formulated. So we have to step back, or we have to think about the back, like previous steps when it's come to the evaluation and control. This is the place where we might doing the performance aspects, performance analysis aspects in the strategic management process. Here's one more question. Like whole strategic management process, now you all know, have a brief idea, like a snapshot. There are 4 steps. First of all, we have to do the environmental scanning. Thereafter, we have to think about how to formulate the strategies. Then the implementation. After that, the evaluation and control. So in that situation, for all the 4 steps, who will be giving more priority in the strategic management process? Like for an example, if we take the organization, there is a top level, middle level, as well as the operation level managers. Yes, when it's come to go in line with these 4 steps, yes, who might be giving more priority? The involvement is more from whom? Operational. Yes, the board of directors as well as the, like they don't have play any role. Yes, more or less, like they might be thinking about the long-term perspective or the long-term planning. But when it's come to the implementation process, the place where more or less operational level people are working towards. Because they might not be deal with the implementation side. That's why I told you, the implementation is a must. It's very important. Because they might be involved with all the environmental scanning and the long-term planning, but the implementation is more or less handled by the operational level or the middle level employees. Okay, with that we can move to the next one. Like this is, you all know now what is strategic management. That means always, as an organization, we have to look into about the long-term perspective or the long-run performance of the organization. So once we are going with this perspective, we have to think about what is happening in and out. Therefore, we are doing environmental scanning in order to identify the both internal manner, we might be identifying the strengths as well as the weaknesses. In an external manner, we have to identify what are the opportunities available and what are the threats that might be coming towards the organization, since we have to mitigate them in advance. Then the formulation is like what we are going to do. That means all the plans, we have to think about what is our long-term planning, the vision, mission, goals, objectives, etc. The implementation, in the sense we have to put them into action oriented. The evaluation, we might be set back, like we might be thinking about what might be about our performance targets. That is a controlling mechanism that we have. Yes, these are different phases of strategic management, like how the strategic management concept has been came across. Like phase 1 is the basic financial planning. What do you mean by the basic financial planning? Yes? Actually, when it's come to the basic financial planning, it might be go less than 1 year's perspective, like what we are preparing as a budgets. So that is the basic. In that, the basic step, more or less information are coming within the organizational setting. That means the company management tend to analyze what is happening inside the organization. But forecast-based planning, yes, it might be forecast. That means we might be think about what is happening in next 5 years time or next 3 to 5 years time. Not like the previous step. It is merely we are analyzing the information within the organizational setting, and we might make a financial plan, maybe preparing a budget. But forecast plan, that is the like forward step in advance, it might be focused 3 to 5 years. What will happen in the environment? Therefore, in that case, we might be more or less bothered about internal information as well as the external information. But still for all, in the phase 2 also, we might be having ad hoc planning. Not in a good way of strategic planning, it might be go around with the ad hoc planning basis. Endless meetings and all. Therefore, still for all, we might be having, because make a conclusion, it's very difficult within an, as you all might have the experience. So when it's come to a particular planning, the different team or the different team members or the employees might be having different views about that. No, it might not be viable. For an example, if it is a project, they might be telling there are different views. It might not be viable, etc. Therefore, when it's come to the forecast-based planning also might be problematic. It will take more time, like previous step. Yes, thirdly, the external-oriented strategic planning. Yes, in this stage, the companies or the managers might be think about what will happen in the outside the environment. Basically, they might be looking about what trends that are coming through, what the competitor is doing, what about their competitive actions, what are the changing market conditions, the customer preferences have changed, like they might be looking about more towards the what is happening external manner. Yes, in the phase 3, one more important thing is we might be take up the planning or the planning steps from the lower level managers to the hands of the top level managers. To the point, like in the external oriented strategic planning, we might be more or less the top management involvement is there in the phase 3. Okay, we take the hands or getting the hands from the like avoiding from the lower level management, more or less top management involvement is more. although there is a top-down approach is there, the top management might be having a dominant role rather the other levels of managers at the phase 3. Yes, phase 4, when it's come to what we call today strategic management. Okay. How does it evolve? The phase 1 basic financial planning, it might be go around less than 1 year. Okay. When it's come to the forecast phase, that means going around 3 to 5 years period. In here, we might be looking about internal information as well as available, what is available, external information also into consideration once we are going with the planning strategy or the planning aspects. The phase 3, that is external oriented strategic planning. What we are highlighting here, the companies or the management look around what is happening in the external environment. What might be the market changes happen and what might be the competitive actions. What about the customer preferences, choices. So all the new trends are coming towards the organization. They might need to like look around that. And also the external oriented strategic planning go around like 5 years period. Yes, the strategic management, what we talk about today. Yes, strategic management, when it's come to strategic management, here in this case, it might not be go for like no longer top-down approach. You all know top-down approach in the sense, there are 3 levels of management, top level as well as the middle level and the operational level. So when it's come to the strategic management, we might be bothered about here, no longer we are going in the top-down approach. That means very participative, like planning, the decision making are going within the organizational settings. That means we might get the inputs from the employees and try our best to implement that plans or that like thinking into our plans. Therefore, very participative decision making styles are going through this, the strategic management under the phase 4. Yes, this is the way it has been, the 3 or the 4 phases, what we call today strategic management has evolved. Yes, what might be the benefits of this strategic management towards the organizational perspective? Yes? Yes, when it's come to this, the benefits, always managers are aware about that, what is our vision? Where do we want to go? Got the point? Like they have a clearer sense and the clearer perspective about the strategic vision. Where do the company want to go? From like in 2016 we are here. In 2020 where are we want to go? Therefore there is a clear sense of strategic vision for the organization and also the sharper focus about what is strategically important. That means from the environmental scanning we might be able to identify what are the opportunities available in the environment. Sometimes we might not be focused about all the opportunities available within our resources and the competencies. We might not be able to go towards all the opportunities available in the market. But in the strategic management purview, we can identify what is strategically important towards our organization. What should we give the priority within our resources and the competencies, for which aspect we have to give more priority. Therefore, what is strategically important towards the organization, we can have an understanding with this strategic management perspective. And also, like we are more alert about what are the rapidly changing environmental aspects. Because always we are alert about what is happening outside. Okay, therefore, our understanding is very broad, not merely limited to the organizational perspective or internal organization. We know what is happening in and out or the outside environment. So we take into consideration those things under broad environmental analysis. So these are the main benefits. Other than that, there are some additional benefits like we can improve our performance of the organization. Yes, because all the organization or all the department might going around the common goal or the common vision, common mission. Therefore, there might be less conflicts in between the departmental status. Therefore, we can improve the organizational performance, and also we can match between the organization environment and its strategy, structure, and processes. That means what? Yes, we are doing a broad environmental analysis. Then we know that how does it fit to the external environment. Therefore, as an organization, we can match between the organizational environment with the what is happening outside. Therefore, there is, we call strategy fit. Therefore, we have, for an example, based on the organizational culture, we might have to differ our strategies. For the point, maybe like government organization as well as when it comes to private organization, the cultural differences might be having, no? Therefore, we have to think about how do we match with the organizational environment with our strategy, with our culture, with our processes. Yes. Then unstable environment, important in unstable environment. Yes, for an example, almost all the organization is going around with the volatile environment. No any stable environmental perspective are happening. Even bank, even hotel, even whatever the industry, they might be going with the unstable environment. Therefore, strategic management is very important with this instability or the not instability. If it is stable, we might not be bothered. No? Stable, that means everything is going smooth. But volatile environment, we have to look into what is happening in and out. Yes, another thing, organizational learning. Have you all heard this term, organizational learning? Yes? Yes, with this organization learning is coming from the element that we talk about, the evaluation and control. We can learn about the organization. For an example, in the evaluation and control, we might be looking to what went wrong and what went right with this strategic management process. Then thereby we can set back, like if it is sometimes we have to reschedule our plans. We have to reformulate our vision, mission or the goals. Therefore, we can learn about the organization, because what went wrong and what went right. Feedback is given. Then the companies might be not to repeat the same thing in the future. If we have done something wrong, it might not be going to recur in the future. So these are some additional benefits of the strategic management. Hope you understood this basic. Yes. Then what might be happen? What kind of challenges towards this strategic management? Yes. What kind of challenges happen to the strategic management? Or else once the companies are going the long-term performance or the long-term vision, mission, goals and objectives, what might the challenges to the strategic management process? As you all know, the globalization. Now, more or less, in almost, there are no boundaries to the organization. Why? No any boundaries? Yes, because most of the time we can say, because according to one of the scholar like Friedman, he might be mentioning the world is flat. Like even the capital, even the information, we can easily transferable to some other country. Like easy transferability is there. Therefore, globalization in the sense as integration and internationalization of markets and cooperation. Therefore, no more boundaries available. If you want to expand the business, you want to diversify the business for some other country, we can do it easily. We can get all the information and can happen. So with this purview, the globalization become a challenge to the organization or the strategic management perspective. You all know in today's context, e-commerce, the BPO companies, so many things have evolved. And also when it comes to skill migration, have you all noticed like in the industry like garment industries or the textile industries, very hard for us to find out the operators or the machine operators. Therefore, high level of the skill migrations are there. With these globalizational impacts, the labor might be problem. Here's another point, the environmental sustainability. This is very keen, very interesting. What? The environmental sustainability. The use of business practices to reduce a company's impact on the natural as well as the physical environment. That means as an organization, as a business, if you want to sustain, we should look around what might be the impact towards the environment, whether it is harmful or the threatful to the environment. Therefore, our business practices should be try our best to minimize the impact towards these natural as well as the physical environmental hazards. What it is in the picture. What? Yes, NSBM, that is the Green University newly launched, I think around 30th September or before last week. September month, the end of the September month, they have gone for the Green University concept. That's the first university that they have started with the concept of green concepts. Because with these sustainability concepts, more or less, they might be think about, yes, we have to go for this greenery environment. Even in the University of Kelani also go with this little bit of this. I hope you might be aware about that. Because we might not be able to utilize like polythene and also like things like that. They might also go with these greenery concepts. But when it comes to the NSBM using, this is a newly launched university, I think close to Homagama. So they might be go with this green university concept, with the idea that they have to maintain the sustainability. Yes, what else we can say about the sustainability aspects? In Sri Lankan perspective, yes. Now, in the previous era, like we might not be go for the emission test, no? Now, almost all the vehicles, they have to follow up with this emission test. And also, there is a huge market for the hybrid vehicles. Why? They might be thinking about that eco-friendly, like it might be environmental friendly. So, these things have come up with the environmental sustainability. And also, you might have heard about the plastic and polythene usage and asbestos usage. Yes, under the good governance, it has been purely banned, no? From I think 1st of January 2016, the purely ban about this usage of asbestos. One angle due to the health aspect, and also they want to maintain the sustainability. What about another point you might have heard about the carbon credits? Have you heard carbon credits? That means those who are might less emit to the carbon or the CO2, carbon dioxide to the environment, they might be able to gain the credits as an income. That is what we call, you can like browse through carbon credit, what is the aspect of the carbon credits. Those are come up with these sustainability aspects. Most of the time, like the whole sim, they might have gone for the geocycling. That is also like recycling process. They want to maintain the sustainability because as a cement industry, it is very hazardous to the environment. Therefore, they might be thinking about the geocycling process. Not only that, when it's come to the like garment sector, like mass and the brandings, they might be more worried about this. Therefore, they might be think about that, like the green manufacturing concepts. As a suppliers, they might be thinking about, when it's come to the government, they might be bothered about what might be the principles that they have in line with this sustainability principle or the sustainability concepts. The child abuse, those things they might be bothered about before placing their orders. Therefore, as an organization's perspective, they have to abide by in order to maintain the sustainability and the survival of the organizations. Yes, these are main challenges to the strategic management purview, like globalization, like e-businesses, e-commerce, the environmental sustainability. Yes, other than that, like we might be thinking about what might be the risk. Yes, with this impact of the environmental sustainability, what kind of risk that they have. Yes, we can see some the regulatory risk. What do you mean by regulatory risk? Yes, that means regulatory risk in the sense based on the rules and regulations. For an example, it is compulsory for doing a emission test because they want to maintain the sustainability aspects. So that is coming based on the rules and regulations with the government settings. For else, litigation risk based on they might be impose some laws. There is a purely ban of the asbestos from 1st January 2016 under good governance. Because he mentioned that the previous government, they might not be able to having a chance as the current president being as a health minister. So now they have gone with this concept. Therefore, they have purely banned with this the usage of polythene as well as the asbestos. One angle health problem, and on the other angle they might want to maintain the sustainability principles. Is up to now clear, no, for you all? I hope online students, you all have any questions? Any questions you can raise? Okay. Then, yes, what we talk about, what might be the challenges to this strategic management. Then there are theories of organizational adaptation, like what you here mention about, like with these environmental challenges, how the organization might be adapting. How do they make an adaptation with these changing environmental settings? There are 4 theories. It has been stipulated by Meensberg, as I mentioned, one of the gurus in the strategic management. So the Meensberg has introduced 4 theories about how the companies can go for this adaptation with these environmental changes. Got the point? With these environmental changes, how the organization make an adaptation to this particular environment. The first one is the population ecology. What does it mean? The population ecology in the sense, the established organizations are unable to adapt to change. What does it mean? There are some organizations, they might not able to adapt with the change. Give me an example for that. For an example, assuming one's particular organization is set up with a particular environmental niche. So they might be serving to that niche. Even though the environmental changing conditions are happening, they might unable to go with that. So they are having the resources, they are having the competencies only to serve that particular market niche. Got the point? Understood? Assuming we are catering only to the youth, then we might be bothered about only the youth. How do we serve to them? So likewise, in that particular organization, there is an impossibility or not able to adapt with these changes happening. Got the point? For example, we can say once the Kodak came to the market, they are the pioneers of this, the photographic industry. No? So once the Kodak came, what they happen? Although they might be come up with the digital technology, but they might not be coming to the market at the right time. They have been pioneered or founded with the digital technology for the photographic industry, but they might be not come to the market at the correct time. That's why in the population ecology is highlighting, if they are unable to adapt to the changes at the right time, they might not be able to sustain. Got the point? That is what we call the population ecology. Then the next one, the institution theory. That means in here we might be focused, organization can and do adapt to changing conditions by imitating other successful organizations. That means, for example, if we know that we might not be go with the adaptation or go with the adoption, we might be looking about what might be our other competitors are doing, other successful businesses are handling. And we tend to imitate their processes, the way that they are conducting the businesses. Then with the imitation, we might be able to go in line with this, the environmental changes. It is easy for us to make the adapting to the environment. Got the point, the difference? The first point is highlighting once an organization is going with the particular niche, they might be unable to adapt with the changes. But the second institution theory is highlighting organization can able to go with the adaptation. If they might not be having the resources and the competencies, what they can do is they just imitate what is happening or what is doing with the competitor. With the imitation, we might be able to adapt to the particular environment. Got the point? Okay. Then thirdly, the Meersburg theory is the strategic choice perspective. What is it? Organizations adapt to a changing environment and have the ability to reshape their environment. What kind of things? That is some kind of forward thinking or the advance. In here, organizations are adapt to a changing environment and also they have a role to play. Organizations can reshape their environment. For an example, with our skills, we have a tendency to the changing something happen in the environment. For an example, with our skills, we might be able to mitigate the threats coming towards the organization. What the point? Because we are having a strategic choice perspective, always strategic perspective. Therefore, as a company, we have the ability to reshape the environment as well. For example, if the competitor is coming with the new technology, we also come up with something new. Because we have that kind of skills or the resources or the competencies. That is what we call strategic choice perspective. Then the organizational learning theory. That is another theory that the Meersburg has spelled out. The organization adjusts defensively to a changing environment and uses knowledge offensively to improve the fit between itself and its environment. What does it mean? In here, organizational learning theory in the sense, how do we adjust with the environment? Organization adjusts defensively to a changing environment. That means we have a defensive capacity. Although there is a globalization, although there is a like e-commerce facilities are available, the e-technology is going on, we have that potential to adjust with the changing environment. Got the point? Organization adjusts defensively to a changing environment and uses knowledge offensively to improve the fit between itself and its environment. That means organization is capable enough at this point of time. That means organization have resources, they have the competencies, they have the knowledge. They can easily transfer to defeat the opponent or the competitor. With the point, we have good strategies within our organizational setting, like it has been mentioned, and uses knowledge. That means within the organization settings, we have good competencies. As we mentioned R&D at the very beginning, we have good R&D department. Although the competitors come up with a new product, we also going in line with that because we have the good competencies, good R&D skills, research and development skills. Therefore, we also can come up with a new product to defend, to make the market defend. Defensively, we can like adapt into the market. For the point, understood the 4 theories that the way that the organization can adapt, what Meersburg has spelled out. Yes, I just like sum up with that. Like first, what we have to do in the population ecology, what they are doing. If we are like strictly like retaining with a particular niche market, we might not be able to adapt. That is what the population ecology is. But when it's come to institution theory, although we might not be having the resources or the capabilities, if we are going to imitate with the successful businesses or the successful competitor, we can go in line with that, then we can adapt to the environment. When it comes to strategic choice perspective, it might be highlighting, we have good abilities, we have good skills. We can adapt with the environment and we can reshape the environment as well. The organizational learning theory is highlighting, we have good resources as well as skills, then we can very defensively, we can make the changes to the environment. With this knowledge and with these capabilities, there is a good strategic fit between the organization as well as the environment. That is what organizational learning theory. So these 4 theories are highlighting how the organizations can make adaptation with these environmental changes or with these environmental challenges. the globalization, e-commerce, or the sustainability, etc. Yes, the learning organizations. This is also something important. What do we mean by the learning organization? Yes, in today's context, the strategic management play a big role. Like almost all the organizations, or most of the organizations, they have separate department or separate like section called the corporate division. Like in the government sectors and as well as private sectors, they have this because there is a primitive importance for these strategic management concepts. Okay, there is an importance for this. Therefore, most of the organization, they might be focused towards that because they all know without having the like adaptation to the what is happening in the environment, because as you all know, we might facing with the very dynamic and the complex environment. There is high value, high importance to this strategic management. So what do you mean by here strategic flexibility? Yes, flexibility. Yes, that means we have to be very less bureaucratic, not like previous. We have said in that like not like previous manner, we have to be like less bureaucratic and more flexible. For an example, most of the IT industry sector organization, they have very like less very flexible work schedules. They can come around 9 or they can come around 10. No any fixed working hours. Like working hours are fixed, but the starting time and ending time might be changing. Even they can at the home that if they can complete the work within the given time period, it might be continuing with that. No problem with that. Likewise, in the strategic flexibility, we might be focused about that. There is like we have to more focus towards the less bureaucratic principles. That means organizations goes towards this very flexible environmental settings. The strategic flexibility in the sense the ability to shift from one dominant strategy to another. That means it is easy for us to changing the strategy. If you are going with the flexible mode or the flexible manner, from one dominant strategy, it is easy for us to go for the another. But we have to have like what? The long-term commitment. It demands long-term commitment from the organizational manner and also learning organization. I will separately like teach about what is learning organization in next few slides. Therefore, what I want to highlight here in today's context, the strategic management become very important role. Because most of the organization, they have concern about this because almost all the organizations are going around with this dynamic environmental settings. Okay. Yes, learning organization. What does it mean? Learning organization. Is that particular organization is skillful at creating, acquiring, and transferring knowledge and at modifying its behavior to reflect new knowledge and insights. For an example, if we have the bureaucratic settings, they might not be come up with the creative ideas. Get the point? The learning organization is an environment where the organizational employees have the opportunity. They can go with the new knowledge. They can come up with their new insights, their views. So here, learning an organization skill at creating, acquiring, and transferring knowledge, and at modifying its behavior to reflect new knowledge and insights. We are giving the flexibility. There is no any dominance. Therefore, we are giving the participative decision making. Then there is a potential to come up with the ideas, new knowledge. Even for an example, if we can say the new product development, all the department might having that like a very flexible manner. They might be having more communications with that. They might be coming. No any like less conflicts because very flexible. Yeah, these are main activities of that. You can read it and make an understanding. Yes. I will give short break. Thereafter, we will continue with because after this, it is continue with the environmental scanning. That is basic elements in detail. We are going to talk about the basic elements about the strategic management. I hope up to now you got the understanding because basic concepts we discussed. What is strategy, what is strategic management, and how it has been evolved. Like what are the different phases. Then what might be the challenges to this strategic management arena, like what we discussed, globalization, environmental sustainability. So those aspects. With these aspects, how the company is going to adapt. So therefore, that is what we talk about. Minsberg has introduced 4 different theories. So the way that with these challenges in the environment, how the organization will able to adapt. Sometimes we might not be having like capabilities. Then what we can do is we try to imitate the other opponent or the other competitor within our resources setting, but we try to identify what are the strategies that they are doing. So like institution theory. So these are some theories that they are highlighting how to adapt with these challenges happening in the environment. Okay. We'll have short break. After that, we'll start with the elements. Okay, shall we start with this? Now, from this point onwards, we are going to talk about the basic elements of the strategic management. So, strategic management process. Okay, the basic one by one we will discuss. The first one is the environmental scanning. Then the strategy formulation, implementation, evaluation, and control. As we discussed at the beginning, there are four main elements of the strategic management process. So, those four elements we are going to talk about now. Yes. Let's come to this, the diagram. The diagram denotes the strategic management elements in a very linear model. So you can see, it might be mentioned in theoretical perspective, the strategic management process as linear model. What do you mean by here linear model? That means first we have to do environmental scanning, then strategy formulation, thereafter only we can go for the strategy implementation, evaluation and control. And again feedback is coming like that. But in practice, it might not be happen like this. Although it might be telling in theoretical perspective this as a linear model, but in practice it might be work as a concurrent manner or parallel manner. For an example, if we are doing the formulate a particular strategy, with that we have to do the implementation as well. Concurrently, we have to perform the two elements or the two steps. But in theoretical perspective, it has been identified as linear model. The strategic or the process of strategic management. This is a strategic management model in detail. As you all can see, under the environmental scanning, what we discussed, yes, we have to gather the information, both the external environment as well as the internal environment. From the external environment, what we are focusing towards what are the opportunities and what are the threats. Because as a company, we might need to grab the opportunities, and from the other way around, we have to minimize the threats coming towards the organization. When it comes to the internal environment, we might be focused about the strengths as well as the weaknesses. Yes, before that, when it comes to the external environment, we might be thinking about mainly three environmental elements. That means we have to see whether what might be happening in the natural environment, societal environment as well as the task environment. We learn those things. But when it comes to the external identification of the external opportunities as well as threats, we might be looking outside. What is happening in the task environment? What is happening in the societal environment? What might be the changes happen in the good governance or present government? Like all those things we have to look into. When it comes to the internal environment, in that case, what we are identifying our strengths as well as the weaknesses. So in that situation, we have to analyze about what kind of things. What about our culture? What about our processes? What about our resources? Do we have enough resources to go for the new product? Do we have strengths? Do we are lacking behind with some IT expertise? So those things we have to analyze in the internal environment. So that is happening under the environmental scanning. Then the strategy formulation, as we discussed, we have to go for the developing long-term planning or the long-range planning. In thereby what we have to focus towards, what is the company's vision, what is the mission, and what kind of objectives that we have. So in order to accomplish those objectives, what are the strategies that we have, and what about the organizational policies? So those things are coming under the formulation stage. Then thereafter, the implementation, that is the third stage. As we discussed, although we have put in place these are our plans, we have to put them into action. Okay, put into action. It is coming under the implementation process. Although for an example, we might be having an objective, yes, we are going for the diversification strategy. So in that case, in here, we have to think about how do we go for the diversification strategy? What kind of programs that we have? Do we have adequate budget in order to go for the diversification strategy for some other arena? Got the point? Therefore, in the implementation stage, we have to look into the programs that we have and the budgets and the procedures that we are going towards in order to putting these plans into action oriented. Understood? So in the evaluation and control, as I mentioned, this is the monitoring process that the company is having. We are monitoring the performance. Whether we have done something wrong or done something correct, we are putting like we are analyzing the performance about these, the results. What we are expecting to do as objectives and what we actually happen. Therefore, this is some kind of a performance review process where it's come to evaluation and control. Or as if something, like for an example, if something wrong, for an example, objective, as we think about, yes, we are increasing profitability by 20% at the end of 2016. If it has not reached at the performance level or at the evaluation and control, then we have to revisit about our objective. Why? What has happened to that? Why the company might not be able to go for the increase of the profitability? But the point, like this is about like performance review. We are comparing what we expected to do and what has happened in an actual manner. Understood? So this is the broad manner of the strategic management model. Okay, we learn about one by one. Yes, environmental scanning. Yes, under the environmental scanning, what the companies have to do, the monitor, evaluate and disseminate of information from the external and internal environments to key people within the organization. Why do we highlighting this? To key people, we have to make the communication. Yes, that means as a strategic managers, they have to monitor the environment. What is happening about the environment? They have to monitor what is in and out. That is monitoring process. Then they have to evaluate. Why do we need to evaluate? For an example, there are ample of opportunities available in the environment. Assuming we are in the IT industry, there are technological development or the new technology coming to the market. That is what we are monitoring. Okay, but when it's come to evaluate these opportunities, we have to evaluate these opportunities. Although there are opportunities available under the external environment, we might not be able to go for that particular opportunity because we might not be having the skills or we might not be having adequate strengths. Got the point? Therefore, although we are grabbing from the outside, from the internal as well as the external environment, then we have to evaluate them. We have to identify whether it is viable for our organization. Do we have resources? Do we have competencies in order to go with that particular opportunity available? Got the point? That is what we are doing as an evaluation process. Then after that, we have to disseminate. Sometimes this might be handled by a particular operational or middle level manager. Then after grabbing or after identification of that particular opportunity and also its viability towards the organization, then such information we have to communicate to the responsible parties. Like what we here call the key people. They are the one who are going to implement with these. They are the one who are going to give in the consent, whether we can able to carry forward or not. Got the point? So that is what, how do we elaborate about the environmental scanning? We have to do what? We have to monitor the environment, both internal as well as the external. Then we have to evaluate them and then we have to communicate such information to the external, about the external as well as the internal environment aspects to the personnel who are going to implement with these. Getting the consent from them. For example, there is assuming the consumers are more preferable to going for online purchasing. There is an opportunity available in the market. Therefore, in that case, we have to evaluate that whether we can go with that. Do we have adequate facilities or the enough competencies within the organization, resources, with go in line with this online purchasing procurement process? Understood what I'm telling? Therefore, we have to evaluate them. Thereafter, only we can make the communication to the key people within the organization. Understood what you mean? Under the environmental scanning, broadly, we have to monitor what is happening in and out. Then we have to evaluate them. Then only we can communicate or disseminate such information to the respective parties. That is what called the environmental scanning. That is what I told you. In the environmental scanning, mainly we are doing SWOT analysis. We are identifying strengths as well as the weaknesses, opportunities as well as the threats. Hope you got the point. Understood, no? That is what environmental scanning. Yes. This is the environmental variables they are mentioning. Yes. that case, what? Basically, we have to think about the internal environment. Here, we are focusing towards the internal as well as the external environment. When it comes to the internal environment, in the middle, they are highlighting about what is the organization structure. Sorry, what is the organizational culture? What kind of resources that we have, the competencies that we have, what we talk about at the beginning. So those things we might be bothered about under the internal environment. Yes, when it comes to the structure, what do you mean by that? Structure of the organization? Mainly structure in the sense the hierarchy. To whom that I need to report. Therefore, we have to have good understanding about that. That is the structure. For an example, as we discussed, we have to disseminate this information within the organization. In order to disseminate the information, we should know to whom do I need to communicate this information. So for that, we have to have a good hierarchy or the proper hierarchy. Okay. And sometimes some companies are having like, have you all almost heard about the SBUs? What do you mean by SBUs? Yes. The strategic business units, we'll be able to learn those things. Strategic business units. That means separate business units are there. They have their own strategies. We call SBUs. Therefore, the company needs to identify what about the structure of the organization. Whether this particular company is having functional based structure or else project based structure. The company might be having like different SBUs that we have to report into. And also the culture. Yes, when it comes to culture, what does it mean? You all know the Sri Lankan culture, Indian culture, Buddhist, Muslim, like etc. No? So in here, the internal environmental culture. Within the organization, you should have an understanding about what is our culture. What kind of things you can say? In a bank? Yes? You might be having your own culture. For an example, State Bank, they have their own culture. But when it comes to the private bank, that culture might be different from the State Bank. No? So it might be differ. Not purely 100%, but there are different features or the different characteristics. Therefore, internal cultural aspects, they should be aware. Then the resources. Yes, as you all know, we should have an understanding about what kind of physical resources as well as the human resources that we have. The resources in the sense both physical capital as well as the human capital. Then other than that, that is regarding internal environment. Then what about the external environment? Here, the external environment in broad perspective, they might be analyzed with the pestle factors. I hope you might have heard these pestle factors. Political, yes, economic environment, sociological or socio-cultural environment, and then technological environment as well as the legal environment. Therefore, as an organization or as strategic managers, they should need to overlook what is happening broadly in this societal environment, what we call the societal environment. And also what is happening about this natural environment, because we talk about in today's perspective, the environmental sustainability is becoming a big threat towards the organization. Therefore, we have to think about what might be happen to this, what might be the things or the variables coming from this, the natural environment. Whether the process might become harmful for the resources, wildlife, climate. So those things we have to bother about. Yes, what is in between? The task environment. We also call that as the industry. As I mentioned about very beginning, the stakeholders. Can you remember? The stakeholders. Stakeholders in the sense, as I mentioned, those who have some kind of influence or the interest towards the organization. For an example, if we can say the suppliers, they can make an influence towards the organization. For an example, assuming we have an order to place within, like shipment will be held on end of this month. So we are in need of getting the the raw material from a foreign supplier. If that particular supplier is telling that yes, we might not be having adequate the raw material available now, it might be getting postponed. So you might have an influence towards the organizational aspects. No, you might not be able to go in with the particular order, the shipment, the deadline. Understood? So in that case, these are the parties who can make an influence towards the activities of the organization. We call those as stakeholders. Maybe the shareholders, suppliers, employees, the labor unions, competitors, creditors, customers, government, etc. So these are the environmental variables, both internal as well as the external. Therefore, once we are going with this environmental scanning, we have to analyze all internal as well as the external aspects or the variables. Got the point? Okay, no? Yes. Then we are moving to the strategy formulation step. Yes, as we learned in this stage, what we are doing now we know we have done almost all environmental scanning has happened. We know what is happening inside as well as the external manner. Then what we are going to do under the formulation step, we develop our long-term planning. Here, the development of long-range plans for the effective management of environmental opportunities and threats in light of organizational strengths and weaknesses. Since we learned, since we done proper environmental analysis in the prior step or the previous stage, then with that, we can be able to make the long-term plans. With the point? Here, that is what they have highlighted, development of the long-term plans for the effective management of environmental opportunities and threats in light of organizational strengths and weaknesses. As we discussed, example, we can say we know we have a good R&D capabilities. That is our strength. Then we know that in outside environment there is an opportunity. Yes, we can go for the new product. The customer is requiring, the customer preference to go for the new product. Then if we have these good R&D skills as a strength, then we might be able to cater with that, the given opportunity available in outside. So accordingly, we can make our plans. Understood? That is what the development of the long-term plans for the effective management of environmental opportunities and threats in light of our organizational strengths as well as the weaknesses. Just to have an idea, in the formulation stage, what you all have to do is, as a strategic managers, you all have to think about what is our long-term plan. What are our long-range plans? Understood? Yes, what you all have to do under this long-term planning? Yes, you all have to have, these are the basic elements you all have to come up with under the strategy formulation. You should have the mission. You should have the vision of the organization, and also you should have the particular objectives. What might be the difference? You might be working with the corporate sector, yes. Do we seek any difference between the vision as well as the mission? Yes. What is the main? Shall we erase from the BOC? Yes. Do BOC have a vision? Yes, no? Yes. What we can say, what might be the main difference between the vision as well as the mission? Yes. In theoretical perspective, do they have two different features, no? Yes. But yes, mission is long term. Is that the other way around? We can say the vision is a future perspective. We are usually telling vision is a dream. Sometimes it might not be able to attain. What's the point? Then mission? Yes? Yeah? Reach the vision. For an example, assuming the vision is our dream, what we are going to expecting in the future. You know about the vision of the BOC? Any idea? Yes? Like that is, the vision is describe about what the organization would like to become. For an example, we might be having being a fastest bank or the fastest service provider in 2020. So that is our vision. That is what the organization would like to become. Sometimes it might not be able to attain. Got the point? That is what we call the vision. But when it's come to the mission, yes, the mission is highlighting about what? The purpose or reason for the organization's existence. What does it mean? Yes? Actually, the mission is highlighting what businesses are we in. With the point, what businesses are we in? Existence situation. What businesses we are going to conduct, we are going to do. Like when it's come to the vision, it's like, as I mentioned, it's a dream. What the organization would likely to become. That is very future focus or the future perspective. Understood? But mission is highlighting the purpose or reason for the organization existence. Why the organization is being. Why it exists. Got the point? Understood? The mission is highlighting what businesses are we in. The existing situation. But when it's come to the vision, it is broadly mentioning that what the organization would likely to become in future. That is the main difference. So, or else we can say the end desires of the organization, that is vision. Yes, then objectives. The objectives might be highlighting the end results of planned activities. What does it mean? You all know the mission, when it's come to mission, where are we now? The existence of the particular organization. When it's come to the vision, what you are going to do or what you would likely to become in future. Then the objectives are the end results of planned activity. Have you heard about objectives should be SMART? Yes. Why do we say SMART? Yes, specific, measurable. Yes. A stands for? Yes, good. Attainable. Then, yes, R is for relevant and the time bound. So, objectives should be SMART. That means the objectives in the sense, whatever the end results which we are going to achieve, those should be what we call SMART. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant and time bound. So once you are being strategic managers, you should be highlight the difference. What is mission, what is vision, and what kind of objectives that you have. Yes. Using further, the mission statement as we discussed, it might be highlighting about the purpose or reason for the organization existence. Why they exist. So in that case, we call a well-conceived mission statement. Or else, if it is a good mission statement, it should be defined the fundamental or the unique purpose. That sets how does it become being unique. How do we stand among other competitive firms? Okay, we have to highlight through our mission what might be our fundamental purpose or the unique manner why do we are being set aside with other competitive firms in the industry. And also we have to highlight or identify the scope of the company's operations in terms of products and services and markets served. As I mentioned, when it comes to the scope of the company's operation, we should highlight about our product or a service. Can you remember as we discussed on the strategy definition? We highlighting the scope in the sense, what kind of products that we are offering or the services that we are offering to the market. So when it's come to a good mission statement, they have to be highlighted with their fundamental or the unique purpose. Got the point? And also they have to mention about the scope of the company's operations. For an example, as a bank, they need to highlight, yes, we are in the financial services. Understood? That is their scope. Got the point? So likewise, and also the market served. What do you mean by market served? Yes? The market served in the sense whether we are catering to the local market or the domestic market, or else we are in the international arena or the international market. Those things we need to highlight in a good mission statement. Because we are going to tell about the outsiders. Why do we exist? What kind of businesses? What businesses are we in? Then we have to highlight these aspects also in a good mission statement. Understood? Okay. Yes, we can do in a practical manner what kind of missions that have. Yes, in the mission statement, as I mentioned, we have to highlight about our unique purpose or the fundamental purpose, and also the scope of the company's operations. Okay, the products and the services that they are offering, and also the firm values and the philosophy about how it does business and treats employees. That means we have to highlight the values of the company or the philosophy. Whether we are delighting the customers, we make them full satisfaction, we be very empathetic about our employees, what kind of values that the company is having. So the point. So these are important aspects we need to highlight in a mission statement. Examples, just to have a look. What is the mission statement of Google? Yes, in the Google's mission, they might be highlighting about they have organized the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That means the availability of the information. That means universally acceptable information are make accessible and useful to the customer's hand. But we can't say that as a well-conceived mission statement. Why do we say so? Yes, although Google has suspected as a very good international high fortune company, why we say like it might not be mainly highlighted about what aspects. Therefore, if it is a good mission statement, it should be stand behind the others. They should highlight whatever the unique purpose. Here we can say the unique purpose or the unique why they might survive or they exist. They might be telling, yes, we are giving world's information as a very into hands of the people, readily accessible, the useful information. Yes. What are the things that they might not be looking to? Is now you should be able to analyze particular mission statements. You know what are the key characteristics or the core components of a mission. Then you should analyze what are the aspects it might not involve. Yes, shall we move to the commercial bank? The providing reliable, innovative, customer-friendly financial services. Have they highlighted about the scope? Yes. Yes, we can say because they have mentioned about the financial services. Then utilizing cutting-edge technology and focusing continuously on productivity improvement, developing our staff and acquiring necessary expertise to expand locally and regionally. What you can say? We mentioned about the previous one. It is a good mission statement. They have to highlight about what? Like the company's operations or the scope of the company's operations. And also we might be mentioned about the markets that they are serving. For the point, the markets. In here, looking to the commercial bank mission statement, what you can say? They might be mentioning necessary expertise to expand locally and regionally. Are they mentioned about going in global manner? Local perspective. They are highlighting about the local perspective, what they are going to, that the market they are catering in a local basis. And also what about the values? We talk about in a good mission statement, there should be highlighting about what? The value system or the philosophy about the organization. Do they highlight about something like that in the commercial bank mission statement? What can we say? Can you all like identify the commercial bank mission statement as a good one or the bad one? Yes, relatively good. Because they might be including with the what? The scope of the operations, they are highlighting about the financial services, and also they are going to serve about the markets. They are addressing about the local market, expansion about the local manner. And also we can say like they might be mentioned about something like the values, the customer friendly, and also the innovative. They might be going with the innovative features or the innovations, the customer friendly and the reliable service. So that is their philosophy. We can identify that like that, their value system. Very friendly customer base, or like serving to the customers in a very friendly manner, and they are going with the innovativeness and reliable services. Understood? So likewise, in a good mission statement or well-conceived mission statement, what they have to mainly focus towards? Yes, what kind of aspects? Yes. Yes, scope of the company's operations. Other than that, the markets that they are serving. Yes, values or the business philosophy. Yes, fundamental or the unique purpose. Those things they have to highlight in a good mission statement. I will give an example after describing this. Yes, vision. Let's come to the vision. Yes, as we discussed, it is a mental picture because it's like a dream. We don't know whether we can able to achieve it or not. Okay. So vision is described about what the organization would like to become. Okay. Vision is a mental perception of the kind of environment an individual or an organization aspires to create within a broad time horizon. That's why I told you it might be going in a long-lasting manner, in the very long-term purview. Therefore, it's like a mental perception. Mentally, we might be build up a picture, yes, we have to go for this and that. Okay? But actually, we might not be able to like confirm, or we might not be affirm whether we can achieve it or not. Okay? That is what we call the vision. It's a mental perception. Here, the vision is like statement about the company's long-term direction. So here, the last point highlighting, this is like a dream to the future. It addresses the fundamental question, where do we want to be? So mission is highlighting what? What is the difference? Now here the question is going, where do we want to be under the vision? Let's come to vision. Yes, existence, that is, it is highlighting what businesses are we in now. Got the point? What businesses are we in? But vision, it is future directive or the future focus. Where do we want to be? But mission is the what businesses are we in? Okay, but here the vision highlighting about where do we want to go? That is future. Understood? Both are future, but mission statement is mainly highlighting about what our business operations are going now. The existence of the current operations. That is what we are highlighting about the scope of the business, our philosophy, our values. What about the unique feature? How do we stand behind the other competitors in the market? Understood? Hope you got the difference, no? Yes or no? Still for a doubt? Yes, that is main difference. Like mission is telling where are we now? The existence. But vision is highlighting where do we want to go? Okay? Yes, what makes a good vision? As we discussed, like mission statement, in the vision also, it should be realistic and feasible and simple and clear. Yes, there are some companies, they have vision. Even the board of directors might not be known what it is. Therefore, vision should be realistic and feasible, and also they should be in a simple manner, clear, understandable. But it should be challenging. Yes, if it is going in the future perspective, it should be definitely challenging to the whole organization and be far but close in terms of time span and organizational commitment. Yes, although that is long term, there should be good commitment from the organizational employees. Yes, frequently articulated by top management. Yes, when it comes to the vision, like it's typically articulated or the formulated by the top management of the organization, board of directors. Derived from a sense of direction. It might be telling about the direction about the organization. In 2020, where do we want to go? In 2010, in 2020, where are we want to go? That is sense of direction. We inculcate the minds of our employees. Yes, that is the point we have to reach. But the point, that is sense of direction. So these are some characteristics to be included in a good vision. Yes, this is a vision of the commercial bank. Yes, in that they have highlighted they want further expansion in South Asia. No? That is that like it's a dream. Not attainable yet, but they are willing to, or they are going to, or they are interested to go. If it might be highlighting for further expansion in the South Asian region. That is their vision. I hope you might have get an idea about how the practice is. The practical example, with this practical example, you should highlight what mission is, talk about, and what vision is. Identify the different features. Understood? Okay. Yes, there is a example given. If time permits, we'll come back to this. Yes, objectives. Before that, I have to, there is some other. Yes, just to have a look about this. There are two companies like Nokia as well as the Kingston University. They have highlighting about their vision and mission. Yes, before that I have to tell, in some companies, they have narrowly defined the mission, and some companies, they have broadly defined about the mission. Yes, just have a look about this. Yes, looking to the first one in the Nokia, the both vision and mission is came across at once, like in same paragraph, no? But when it comes to the Kingston University mission, it might be highlighting in a separate manner, mission as well as the vision. Just have a look on like Kingston University mission. The mission of Kingston University is to promote participation in higher education, which it regards as a democratic entitlement to strive for excellence in learning, teaching, and research, to realize the creative potential and the imagination of all its members, and to equip its students to make effective contribution to society and the economy. Like here, in that mission statement, they are highlighting about what? Are they highlighting about their scope, the scope of business? Yes, they are telling that they are in the higher education arena, no? Therefore, they might be highlighting about the scope. Other than that, do they highlighting about their values or the philosophy that they have? Yes, they might be mentioning to strive for excellence in learning, teaching, and research. Therefore, they might be equipped with, they want to equip with their employees in good learning, the good teaching capacities, and research and development aspects as well. That is their philosophy. Understood? Sometimes they are highlighting about their values, but some are given their philosophy through the mission statement. So likewise, you should make the distinguish or the difference in between the mission and the vision. But when it's come to the Nokia, they are highlighting all those things in the one paragraph or the one statement. Therefore, some companies, it should be two different. When it's come to the vision as well as the mission, it should be two different, because in theoretical perspective, we can highlight it. There is a difference. Mission is in simple terms, it might be highlighting where are we now. In the vision, where do we want to go? Therefore, in practice, should be as two different terms or the concepts. We shall remove with that. If time permits, you all can read these things to get an understanding. Yes. The objectives. What do you mean by objectives? Are the goals and the objectives are different? Oh, same. Company may have objectives, company may have goals. Are they similar or are they different? Concurrently, you might heard this, no? Objectives, goals, similar. Only 3 physical participation, we have to get the feedback from them. What about online students? Any questions? Any understanding, do we see any difference between the objectives as well as the goals? Yes? Yes, online participants? Any idea? Objectives and goals, are they similar or differ? What can you say? Yes, in theoretical perspective, there is a distinctive features between the objectives as well as goals. What might be the contrasting in between? Objectives are end results of planned activities. A goal is always open-ended statement. What is the difference? Objectives are end results of planned activities. They should be stated as action verbs and tell what is to be accomplished by when and quantified if possible. When it's come to the objectives, what they are highlighting, yes, that is end results. When it's come to the goals also, we can say that is end result. But objectives are end results, but they are highlighting they should be in action verbs and accomplished by when and quantifiable. That means when it's come to the objectives, they are getting as, they should be stated as action verbs. And also we have to highlight that when and quantified in terms, when and where we can achieve this particular objective. But when it's come to the goal, it is just an open-ended statement, absolute. It's vague, not clear. Understood? So what we want to accomplish with no quantification of what is to be achieved and no time criteria for completion. Yes, just take a simple example. In a what is for an example, if we take to increase the profitability, is it a goal or the objective? Goal. Why? It is an open-ended statement, vague, no? It might not be clear. But we can transfer that particular goal into objective. How does it so? We can say to increase the net profit margin by 20% while maintaining the GP margin at around 30% in 2016, at the end of 2016. So that is what, when it's come to the objective, it should be in a what? We know that when to achieve, at the end of 2016. And also quantified in terms. Increase the GP margin, increase the net profit margin by 20% while maintaining the GP margin at 30% at the end of the 2016. Got the point? Therefore, if it is objective, it is in a quantifiable terms and we know when to achieve. Understood? But when it's come to a goal, it is just an open-ended statement, increase the profitability. We don't know. No any quantification terms are incorporated. So that is the difference between the objectives as well as goals. Although interchangeably we use these two terms, goals as well as objectives, there are clear differentiations or clear different features among these two. Hope you got the point. Understood, no? Okay. These are some examples for the goals as well as the objectives. Is one more thing, as we discussed in the objectives, you should make aware like what we highlighting, they should be smart, no? Therefore specific, measurable, like attainable, realistic, and also time bound. Therefore there is a difference between the term objectives and goals. So where are we now in the strategic management process or the model? Which step? Sorry, which step are we in? First or the second? Second step, no? Strategy formulation. Under formulation only we talk about the vision, mission, objectives and goals. And the strategies. Yes, strategies and policies. As you know, strategies, we start off with this like this term or this concept. Yes, we should have a master plan. Strategies are the master plan or the techniques how the company will achieve its mission and objectives. Although we might be mentioning, yes, this is our mission, this is our vision, but there should be a proper plan or proper master plan. How do they derive? How do they achieve? That is what we are highlighting in the strategies, whatever the comprehensive master plan, how these objectives, mission, vision, those things are going to accomplish. Yes, when it's come to the strategies, we might be stipulate or we might be segregated into the levels, like corporate level strategies, the business level strategies, as well as the functional level strategies. You might be able to learn these in depth, just to have an idea. Yes. The corporate level strategies, the business level and the functional level. What do you mean by corporate level strategies? Yes. In the corporate level strategies, that the top management or the board of directors, they should have the very helicopter view or the more broad view, because they want to see the overall picture about the organization or the overall direction about the organization. So that is what we mean about the corporate strategy. The corporate strategy is highlighting about the overall direction about the company and how they manage their businesses. So when it's come to the business strategy, what does it mean? Business strategy? Yes, I told you, like some companies having their parent and also they have the business units, subsidiaries, SBUs, what we call strategic business units. So when it's come to the business strategy, that means each and every business, they should know about how do we able to make a competition, to make a beat the opponent. Always competitive strategies, always we can say that as the cooperative strategies. Sometimes we might not be able to go in a competitive manner. In that case, we should know about how to be incorporate, how to be in mergers or the alliance with the other particular firm and go for the sustainability or the adoption. But the point that is coming under the business level. So when it comes to the functional level is, you all know, in each and every organization, they have different functions. Maybe the HR function, R&D function, marketing functions, so on and so forth. So in that case, the functional strategy in the sense, in each function, we should have to know about how to utilize the maximum of our resources in a productive manner. Therefore, in functional strategies, we are addressing about the just operative functions, HR, R&D, marketing, etc. The business strategy, that means we might be looking about our SBUs, different strategic business units. For an example, if we can tell like 8 constraints, there are different SBUs. They might be going for the hotel sector companies. They might be having ticketing agencies. They might be go with the tourism, etc., printing. So they have their different SBUs, no? And they might knowing the fact that how do we manage these different SBUs. Therefore, they have the business level. Each and every business, they have to tackle within a different form. Once we are dealing with the hotel sector, might be different from the printing sector. might be different from the ticketing sector. Got the point? Therefore, in the business strategy, we might be going in line with the competitive strategies or else cooperative strategies. But in the corporate level strategies, the managers need to look about the overall manner, the overall direction about the organization. These are the different hierarchy or the hierarchy about these strategies. These are different features or the distinguished way that we can address about the corporate level strategies and the business level strategies. As I mentioned, same thing. The corporate strategies highlighting about the whole company's direction. Business level strategies, they might be looking to the how to make the competitive position in a specific industry. Therefore, here you can look into the summary. The corporate strategy asks what industries the company should be in, because we might be looking about very broader perspective or the helicopter view, very broader manner. Which industry we are going to be in. But business strategy asks about what business unit should compete or cooperate in each industry. Got the point? When it comes to the corporate level strategy, they have a very good broader view. Then they might be focused towards what the industry that we are going on. As it concerns board of directors or the management, they might be thinking about do we go for some other industry? Whether we are going for the tourism industry. That is what it is coming under the corporate level. But in the business level, now we are having the SBUs. In these SBUs, we try our best to compete or cooperate. How to make the competition or else how to become maybe the mergers or maybe the alliance, how to go in line with them. Understood? So that is how do we differentiate the corporate level as well as the business level strategies. Let's come to the functional level, that is merely we are highlighting about the different functions. Another term under this formulation, the policies. What do you mean by the policies? Policies? Yes, policies might be telling about what kind of things. Policies include the broad guidelines, the rules as well as the procedures to support efforts to achieve the stated objectives. In order to achieve the objectives, what kind of rules that the company is having? What kind of guidelines the employees need to follow up? For an example, we can say the recruitment policy. The recruitment as a policy. So under the recruitment, we might be telling if you want to be permanent, you should have these qualifications. Understood? You have to have the master's degree or else this degree or that degree, so and so forth. We might be giving our recruitment policy. Understood? So that is one kind of policy. Therefore, in the broad manner, the policy in the sense, it might be highlighting about the company guidelines or else the rules and regulations in line with or in line to achieve our said objectives. Understood? Another? Okay, now. That is the next step. That is the third one. Where are we now? We have talked about environmental scanning, then strategy formulation. Now we are at the strategy implementation. I told you what we are doing at this stage. We have to, although there are stipulated strategies, it might not work. Then we have to put them into action oriented. Okay? The implementation is that the process by which strategies and policies are put into action. They have to put all our plans into action oriented. That is what we call the implementation. We have to make it practice. Yes, in that case, what do we need? We have to have set programs. We have to have budgets as well as the procedures within the organizations. What do you mean by program? Yes? What can you say as example? For an example, the company might be thinking is that the company is having this kind of a training program in order to give extensive training about SAP system, about the organization. That is, they have a good training program procedures, the training program. And also, in order to go with that particular training, we might have to handle the outsource, or else we have to getting a consultant there. So in that case, we have to have a budget. In order to conduct this particular training program, we have to have a budget. We have to do a cost-benefit analysis. How do we do so? And also, we have to think about what kind of procedures that we have to follow up. But we can say we call this as a standard operating procedures, SOP. The book also highlighting about that, the standard operative procedures. What kind of procedures that we are going to apply? Merely in the procedures in the sense, whatever our business processes. Yes, in the first one, there is a program, as we mentioned, maybe the training program. That particular program is into transfer into numbers under the budgets. Okay. Then the procedures are in the sense the business processes that we are going to operate. That means how particular thing can get done. Like how the training program is going to conduct. What kind of procedures. Do we outsourcing or do we make an internal resource person? So there should be different procedures. We have to go in line with that. Understood? So that is what we call this, the implementation process. And the implementation, to make it operative, to make our plans into operative stage. Yes, the last step is, yes, the evaluation and control. As I mentioned, what do you mean by evaluation and control? Yes. In here, we are monitoring. What do we monitor? We are monitoring our actual performance as well as our expected or the desired performance. Why? In the planning, like under the process, we can say, here, you just see the process, like here we have set up objectives, set up our vision, mission. So these are our expectations, no? As we discussed, the merely a vision statement is a dream. So, sorry, vision is a dream. So that is our expected outcomes. So in the evaluation and control, what we are going to do, we might be measuring whether these expected results or the expected outcomes have originally achieved it or not. Therefore, what we are doing, just evaluation and control is a monitoring process, because we are monitoring our performance. What went wrong and what went right, or else we have to revisit our mission, revisit our objectives. Got the point? So that is what we are doing under this evaluation and control step. It's merely the performance evaluation. So they are defining the process in which the corporate activities and performance results are monitored so that actual performance can be compared with the desired performance. We just doing the evaluation and control step as a monitoring process. For an example, we can say what we are doing as a variance analysis. We just try to find out the expected and the actual. Then whether there is any deviation or the variance. That is what we are measuring under the evaluation and control. Then the performance. As we discussed, the performance measurement is very important under this evaluation and control step. Yes, performance is, as we discussed, that is the end results of the activities. In most of the terms, in today's context, how do we measure performance? You all know. You might be keen about the performance measuring. How do you measure the performance of the organization? In practice, in today's context, most of the organizations are not going merely about the financial performance, not merely about the revenue or the profitability. They might be look around the non-financial factors as well. What kind of non-financial factors? Yes? Yes? Yes, human resource, whether the employees are satisfied, whether the customers are willing to buy our products, whether they have repetitive customer base, whether they are satisfying. Like when it's come to the performance measuring, I hope you might have heard about the ABC. Yes, and management accounting. Sorry, balance scorecard. We can learn about under strategic management also the balance scorecard. Yes, under the balance scorecard is highlighting about what? They might be highlighting not merely about the financial perspective. In order to measure the performance, we have to look around financial as well as the non-financial factors into consideration. Here you can see the financial manner, we can say the revenue or the profitability. But on the non-financial aspects, we can look into the to what extent customers are satisfying. What about our market share? Whether they are becoming a repetitive customers. What about our brand name? Then the employees, learning or growth perspective. Whether the employee turnover rate is high. What might be the reasons for that? Whether they are not motivated within the organizational settings. The activities that they are conducting. And also when it's come to the internal business processes. What about the quality control aspects if our goods? If it is a garment, the quality control perspective. So likewise, in the performance measuring, in most of the organizations today are considering both financial as well as the non-financial. This is an example for the balance scorecard. Balance scorecard is a performance measure which we are using both financial as well as the non-financial aspects. Okay, that is the process that we learned. Hope you got the point. Like mainly, what the process? Yes. In theoretically, we learn as I told you at the beginning, just as a linear model, but in practice, concurrently this process is working around. Okay. First of all, the environmental scanning, then strategy implementation, then is it implementation? The second step, formulation, then the implementation and the evaluation and control. So that is the four broad aspects, so the four broad elements which is coming under the strategic management process. Hope you have understand about that, no? Yes. Yes, one more thing like triggering events. What do you mean by that triggering event? Yes, these are some stimulus activity which might be go in line with in order to change a particular strategy. Yes, the triggering events are the stimulus or particular events which might be occur, there is a potential to change a particular strategy. For example, they are mentioning the new CEO. Assuming the new government, there is totally different, no? We have to go for new budget pronouncements, new tax pronouncements, imposition of tax. It is something like that. In an organizational perspective also, there are triggering events come across. For example, appointment of a new CEO. Under the new CEO, he might be having a different mandate or the different way of controlling the company, business operations. Understood? Therefore, it might be becoming a triggering event. For an example, that the employees might be feeling that this is not our comfort zones. No more we cannot work with the comfort zones. There are changes coming from the new board of directors, new CEOs. Understood? So that might be becoming into the potential to change our strategies. And also the external intervention. What does it mean? The external intervention in the sense the competitors' actions. And also when it's come to the competitors' actions, they might be have a direct towards us to change our given strategies. Yes, threat of change of ownership. If there are ownership changes, they might be like the new CEO, the new shareholders, new board of directors. They might be go for the new direction. Like they might be stipulate a new vision, new mission, new objectives. Then the performance gap. What do you mean by performance gap? Yes, as we discussed under the evaluation and control, if we have identified that yes, our actual results have a huge deviation with the expected results, there is a performance gap. Then accordingly, we have to change our strategies. Understood? So that is one triggering event. And also the strategic inflection point. The strategic inflection point in the sense, the point where there is a major change happen in the, maybe in the technological environment, maybe in the competitive arena or the competitive actions, there is a major change take place. So that is what we call the strategic inflection point. So in that situation, accordingly, we have to make the changes to our the defined strategy. As I mentioned, like consumer preferences might be changing. They might be more focused towards the online purchasing. Then we have to think about that. Yes, we have to go in line with the customer preference. We have to think about the online, like banks, what they are doing, online banking. So therefore, accordingly, we have to do these changes. So these are identified as the triggering events, the place where, or the stimulus, in order to change our given strategies. Understood? Okay. Yes, when it's come to the strategic decision, as we discussed, always strategic decisions are looking around the long term or the long run future of the organization. So there are certain characteristics of this, the strategic decision making process. The first one is what? The strategic decisions are rare. What do you mean by rare? Yes? Yes? Strategic decisions might be identified as, that means they might be not usual, no? Typically they might be having unusual, not in a day-to-day businesses, not in a just to operative manner. Therefore, typically they might not be having no precedence to follow, because it might be happen very unusual manner. And also consequential. What do you mean by consequential? Actually, when it's come to the strategic decision making, it should be have very good commitment from the all employees. Even though like resources as well as the competencies should be there, no? In order to go for this strategic decision making process. Therefore, the consequential in the sense there should be substantial resources and there should be great deal of commitment from the people to achieve the given vision, mission, objectives, etc. So the directive, yes, always when it comes to strategic decision making, they are going to future direction, future or the long-term oriented, long-term focus. So these are some characteristics of strategic decision making. Yeah. The Meansberg have highlighted about modes, the different modes of strategic decision making. The first one is the entrepreneurial. What does it mean? Entrepreneurial. The strategy is made by one person, a founder. One powerful individual might be come up with a particular strategy. For example, we can say Steve Jobs, he might come with the Apple, or else we can say Amazon.com. Jeff Bezos, they have come up with the online procurement, like no any physical store of books, but online procurement process is going on. That is entrepreneurial. Then adaptive. Yes, in the adaptive in the sense, always we try to find out the solution in a very reactive manner. Reactive in the sense, once the problem come into point, then only we think about what is the strategic decision we have to take into consideration. What's the point? That means adaptive in the sense, that is reactive mode of like finding out the solution for the particular plans. We try to adapt based on that particular situation. That is reactive form. The planning in the sense, that means we are very proactive, future focused. We are trying to make the plans, we are trying to think about the future. Accordingly, we have to have good planning. The logical incrementalism, what does it mean? The logical incrementalism in the sense, based on the situation, we might be doing some additions. We might be doing some incrementals or the additions to our particular given strategies or the plans. Based on the situation, based on the contingencies, accordingly we might be doing additions to our different strategic decisions. Got the point? So these are the 4 different modes of strategic decision making, which was introduced by the Meansberg. Yes, this is a strategic decision making process, that what we learned already. Like we have to evaluate the performance, then we have to review about the corporate governance. I think that is a separate topic that we have to talk about, the corporate governance. Then we have to think about what is happening in the external environment and what is happening in the internal environment. Then we have to analyze SWOT. That's why we call SWOT as strategic factors. Okay, in the future sessions, you might be heard this as the strategic factors. Then we have to identify what are the strategic factors, that is SWOT analysis. Then we have to identify what might be the best one or the best alternative option or the alternative strategy. Accordingly, we have to make the implementation and evaluation. So this is the broad manner, the strategic decision making process. Yes, have you heard about the term strategic audit? Yes. That means we might be preparing a particular checklist and we might be making it a tick off whether we have achieved this particular corporate function or the corporate objectives or not. Like we might be doing or the revisit about our SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and trends, that is coming under this strategic audit. Yes, there are some review questions which I have given from the book. Is any more questions? No questions. Yes, any online students, do you all have any questions regarding what we discussed today? Yes, just to have a sum up, like what we discussed. Yes, any questions I can address? Any online students might not be having questions. Although physical students, you all have no more questions. Yes, everything is perfect or everything is not gone. That is the question at the end for my mind. Okay. Like I just brief what we discussed. Like first of all, we in the first session we might be going to go with the basic concept of strategic management. Under that, what we learn. Yes, I told you this strategic management, like the subject came across with the purview of the strategy. With the term strategy, it might be came across with the like war or the military era. Then there are different phases that we have learned as a, how does it has been evolved as the strategic management. What are the different phases that we learned? Yes, it has came across with the basic financial planning. Then it has been gone with the yes, forecasted financial, like forecasted planning, then external oriented planning, then only we came across with this strategic management. Those are different phases. Then we learn about what might be the challenges towards the today's organizations or the today's strategic managers. We learn about the globalization, e-commerce, as well as the environmental sustainability. They might be becoming more challenges towards the operations of the organizations in today's arena. Then what we discuss? Yes, challenges, like thereafter we discuss about the detailed process about the strategic management. Like as I mentioned, although we might be thinking this as a linear model, but in practice it might not working as a just a linear process. There might be like concurrent things happening in between in the sense like simultaneously we can perform the strategy formulation and also the like implementation. Therefore, although we have learned that as a linear model, it might not be work well in the practice. Okay, thereby step by step I explain the process. Hope you get an idea. See? No more questions? No, not at all. Yes. Yes, there are some questions given in the booklet. I have already included in your slides. So just to have a look on that. Okay. And also I have uploaded the ebook for you all. Then you can make the reference from that. Because same slides repeatedly, like most of you all are, most of the lecturers, myself, Mr. Mahesh, and the Mrs. Tamara Gunasekara, all of us are doing from this key text. Then you might be easier for us to refer to that one as well, if time permits for you all. Okay, then thank you very much. you can go out and come, no? Only like there is a time. Are you waiting for the last session as well? Sir came? I didn't see.